Sharon, the social team manager for Amy.
And I'm Amy Paul, the Senior Employment and Retention Advisor for the East team in Suffolk.
So, hello Amy.
Hello, it's Jamie, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Nice to meet you, Jamie. Are you alright?
Yes, thank you.
Good. So, do you know why you've come into the service today?
I do, yeah. I'm not feeling very great about work at the moment.
So what we do for the employment advisors within Wellbeing, basically we work as part of the Wellbeing service, and anything that's employment related, anything that's to do with employment that's given you symptoms of anxiety or depression, that's our bag. So before we get started, I do have to get you to do some compulsory paperwork, if that's okay.
Okay, yeah.
So if you can have a look at this for me, please. That's our consent form, and if you're happy with everything, just sign the bottom. And basically what that says is, today I don't have to speak to anyone. The notes from our conversation and what we agree with, our plan, will go on our shared database with your therapists called IAPTUS. Obviously, if you disclose possible risk of yourself or harm to others, that's when I have a duty of care to flag that up. But other than that, everything is confidential. So if you're happy with that, would you be able to sign that, please?
Okay. Can I read it later?
I'm afraid to carry on with the appointment, I have to get your consent.
Okay, all right then.
But you can take as long as you need to read it.
Yeah. Can I take it away and bring it back next time?
You could sign it today so we could carry on with it, and I could do a copy for you so you could take home and you've got your own copy of it.
Okay.
But like I said, we'll have to sign it to carry on with our appointment today.
Okay, I'll sign it then.
Alright, but I can photocopy that for you at the end.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. The next questionnaire I'm going to give you is just about your employment status at the moment. So I'm just going to ask you a few employment related questions. You've probably filled in questionnaires similar to this before. I'm just going to ask you what your employment situation is. If you're unemployed, employed, all of that.
Okay, is this something else? Can I bring this back next time, or do I have to?
No, that will have to be completed again today, I'm afraid.
Okay.
But with employment, things can change, and hopefully that will reflect it. So say if you're coming in today looking for work, then hopefully in a few sessions time we can put employed or something like that. So it will change, because I take those measures, that one, every session.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Brilliant, thank you. And finally, it's just our independent measure of wellbeing. It's what's called a SWEMWES. And what that does is it measures exactly that. It's your wellbeing. So if you can be as honest as you can by just indicating to what degree you agree or disagree with those statements.
Okay.
And hopefully we'll see a positive change in you towards the end of our treatment.
Right.
Thank you, that's brilliant. So now we can crack on. Tell me a little bit about your employment and why you're here today.
Okay, well, five months ago, sorry, I'm just referring to my notes because I wrote it down before I came so I don't forget anything. So 5 months ago, I went off sick after experiencing what I now know is to be panic attacks, and I had constant worry of hurting the children that I care for.
What is your job role?
I work at a preschool. I'm a nursery nurse.
Okay. And what sort of things? So you said you were off sick because of your constant worry. Were the panic attacks at work?
Well, yeah. I also had constant thoughts that I would faint and ultimately land on one of the children.
Okay.
Because they're all small little toddlers running around, or it could be that I could drop them.
Did that ever happen?
No, it didn't happen, but obviously I was frightened that it was going to happen.
Yeah. One of the really good things that you've already identified is when you are worried or anxious, already you've come into our appointment today prepared, you've written down what you want to say. So if we can build techniques within you to help manage and minimise those worries, one of the things I always teach in CBT is what is the likelihood of that thought happening actually into action. So they call it, PWPs here call it to take the thought to court. So what is the likelihood that you would actually fall on one of those children?
Okay.
What would you say, the day, can you remember where you thought, no, do you know what, I've got to go off sick? What was the day that your GP made that decision to sign you off? Did anything significant happen in that day?
Well, I was feeling really, really faint. I didn't think I could go into work because I would faint and fall on one of these children. So I don't think it was just that whole feeling of fear of, and that had escalated. So I can't put it down to one incident. It was probably a build up of things.
Have you always worked in your sector?
I have, yes.
How do you feel about maybe changing a different job role? So if I was to say to you today, how ready do you feel to go back to your same role on a scale of 1 to 10? What would that be?
I'm not ready.
No?
No.
1 or 2? 0 being absolutely no way can drag me in there, and 10 being yet get me in there tomorrow. Where do you think you'd be on that scale?
I think maybe 3.
Mm-hmm. And
No, 2.
what we need to try and work out is, so what, talk to me about what therapy you're receiving as part of wellbeing.
Okay, well, I'm seeing a PWP. I'm not really sure what that stands for.
Psychological wellbeing practitioner.
They did tell me, but I'm not very good with those.
Do you want me to write that down on your form that you're going to go home with a copy of?
Yes, please.
Yeah. It's good. There's so many acronyms in the NHS. It's good to know what things stand for, isn't it?
And it doesn't sink into my head.
Yeah. So, and with them, you're talking about your worry and your panic.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you need to know who it was? Or?
No, I don't need to know who it is, but what sort of things? No, we do. So we work alongside them.
Okay.
So the notes that I put on today, your therapist will be able to access them and say, okay, so what's going on with employment? Although it's likely that I probably work within the same office as her.
Okay.
She can just look on your one episode and see what I'm doing, equally as what I can see what she's doing, to give you that integrated care package. So
did I really need to fill in all those forms then?
You did because that's necessary for employment, and also when we do your consent form in there, it's getting your consent as if we have to liaise with other people.
Oh, okay.
So if, for example, and I'm not saying this will happen, do not put this thought in your head, but if your employer contacted me and said, oh, do you know how ready Jamie is to go back to work? Or perhaps they asked you that question and you didn't feel like you wanted to contact them, by you signing that form, I would be able to just say, just to let you know he's still working with the wellbeing service, as an indication that you're still unwell. So I can't be an advocate for you, but I'm just there for your mental health support, and basically you signing that statement says that other organisations, you allow me to be recognised as your mental health support.
Okay. But you won't tell them anything?
No, of course not. It's all confidential, and any contact I do have with anyone else, it will all be run past you. Okay. So if I did have to, if there was any contact with your employer or anything we did with, if you want to send your CV out somewhere, anything, I run it all by you first.
Okay. Well, that makes me feel a bit better. Thank you.
You're in control. Your employment support. So the only person that sees our notes and can access them is your therapist, which knows the basis anyway, because she made the referral to us, didn't she?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So, do you think there is a trigger in work in particular that is making you feel as if you're going to fall over? So, in your 5 months off from work, have you noticed a positive change within yourself? Do you have a fear of falling over anywhere else?
I do actually. I actually just don't like being out of the house. I feel safer at home. If I fall over, if I faint and fall over at home, I'm pretty much. I'm not going to be falling on anybody else.
Has the GP sent you for things when you first went? I presume you first went to your GP with these symptoms.
Yes.
Did they put you forward for anything like blood tests or eyesight tests, anything like that?
There's no physical.
No.
No.
Well, in a way, that's a good thing, because that means it's manageable and the person in control is you.
Okay.
And so what we can do is give you those tools to help manage that. So there's nothing physical going on, which is great, because the last thing you want is your physical health having a negative impact on how you're feeling as well. It's all your mental health, which we can work and try and get a bit more positive. So what I'm going to do is, have you got a CV?
Oh, it's probably an old one.
Okay. If you can ping that over to me via email,
Mhm.
here's my card.
Thank you.
If you can ping that over to me, and what I'll do is I'll whiz up your CV, make it brand spanking new, so when we get to the stage where you are ready to either go back to work or find alternative work,
Mhm.
you've got something to take away from our service, you've got those skills, and we try to use it as a tool to empower you. So when we do what's called your personal profile, it's really hard when you're feeling anxious or depressed to say, it's quite hard for anyone to be fair, even when you're
Yeah.
well, to say what's good about yourself, what
Mhm.
makes you employable. But when somebody else does it, especially when it's not a friend or family member and it's completely objective,
Mhm.
it means more.
Okay.
So we'll use that as a tool to empower you, and you can, and as a transferable document where you can use that in other areas, whether or not you choose to stay in work or whether you choose to go somewhere else.
Okay.
Do you think, if you think about employment, is it the role itself? Would you, or do you want to try something different? Because the last thing I want you to do is find another job and completely avoid how you're feeling, and then that occur in another area, another occupation, another career path. We need to tackle it now. But do you think it's the job itself? Does it make it worse?
I'm not sure if it's the job itself. I guess because I worry that I'm going to hurt the children
Yeah.
when I faint. Yeah, I think actually being in the nursery room is what makes it more difficult. Yeah.
So if I say to you, what would your ideal employment situation be in a month's time? What would you say?
Well, I like to be around other people
Mm-hmm.
because I think if I do have any problems or feel faint, other people might be able to support me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but it is really children. So if I could work maybe somewhere else with adults in an office or something.
What about in a school environment, in an office? How would you feel about that?
I think that would be acceptable.
Yeah? Do you think you'd still enjoy that?
Yeah, I think so because, well, I don't know really. I do like being with the children. Obviously, that's my career. I'd have to sort of give that some thought, really.
What about something like a school librarian or a school? They have a healthcare practitioners now, head of pastoral care. You come across to me as someone that's quite caring.
Mm-hmm.
What I'd like to use is that if you can fill this in, it's a strengths profile finder. And it's called the VIA Strengths Finder.
Right.
And what it does, it works on the positive psychology practice that everybody has the same character strengths. It's just to what degree that we own them.
Mm-hmm.
So whilst theoretically everyone's really caring, one person might score really, really highly on caring and that be a character strength, and the other person might have a little bit of caring. And what it will do, it'll ask you a series of questions, and what that does is when I do your personal profile, it helps collate who you are as a person.
Right.
So already, if you want to work with children, you're saying to me you're quite a caring, empathetic person.
Mm.
Do you agree?
Yes, I would agree. Yeah.
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 So, and if we want to get you back into it, what's good is that you've recognised that you don't want to leave that environment wholly, that it's not working for you at the moment.
No, that's right.
So, and you want to get back to work. So what we know is being out of work ultimately damages your mental health further. And what we don't want to do is reduce your exposure to the workplace so much that actually when it comes to going back to any workplace environment, you're really, really apprehensive.
Yes. Yeah, it has been a long time.
So I think what we should do is do your CV, have a think about, in terms of, so you've been off for 5 months.
Yeah.
So you'll be coming up to your 6 months review. So I presume, have you been there for over 2 years?
Yes, I have. Yeah.
So you'll start going on to SSP fairly soon, statutory sick pay as opposed to.
Yes. Yeah, I've had a letter about that.
Yeah. So has there been any indication about your back to work interview? Have your employers made any contact?
No, they haven't. No. I mean, yeah.
They haven't checked up on you?
They have been contacting me, but it's been a bit difficult, so I try to avoid them.
Okay. I know it's really, really difficult,
Mm.
but just as employers have a duty of care when you go off sick to look after you, it's also your duty to let them know how you are, just so that communication's going both ways.
So I have to ring them regularly, do I?
No, but it's recommended that when they make contact with you, you do try and return that contact.
Okay.
And it doesn't have to be loads, it doesn't have to be a 15-minute conversation. And if speaking on the phone is difficult, send an email. An email's actually better.
Speaking to them is difficult, really.
And sometimes an email's better because it generates evidence as well. So you can say, you know, you've got the time and date that you actually did return that contact, and as opposed to missed phone calls.
So I don't have to phone them. I can.
No, it's a reasonable adjustment if it's going over the phone, because I think so many people with anxiety, when that phone vibrates, your heart starts pumping.
Well, that's the thing. It's kind of it's adding to my stress. Really.
Yeah, exactly. So no, as a reasonable adjustment, just contact them over email. And what I can do is I can put forward a draft email if you want.
Okay.
Just to say, I'm sorry I haven't been in touch. Actually, through my contact with Wellbeing, I've found that the phone calls are causing me significant stress. Is it okay if going forward I contact you via email?
Okay.
Would that be all right?
Yeah, that sounds good to me.
All right, so I'll put an email template together, because what's really important is that contact still happens. So, and what they should have done, or they should be working towards, is a return to work review, or just a sickness review. And that will be where they ask, or they should ask, how you are, what's going right. The good thing is that you are receiving and engaging in help and support, because that will rule out things like things like being taken out of a job because of capability. That's less likely to happen when you're already engaging in therapy off your own back, because it shows that you want to get better and you are motivated.
I must say, one thing that has come out of the therapy is that I often have thoughts of not wanting to wake up, because obviously I wake up and immediately I'm worrying about that work is either going to call me or I need to go into work.
When you say not waking up, tell me a bit more about what you mean.
Well, I would just rather, I suppose, I mean, I don't want to kill myself, but I just think it'd be easier if I was to just go to sleep and not wake up again.
And are all those thoughts, do you wake up and think about work?
Yes, I do, yeah.
So we've identified that work is the thing that needs to change, isn't it?
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's a thought.
Yeah, because if we take that out of the equation, or at least make that more manageable, you're hopefully going to want to wake up and just be more motivated to get on with your day.
Yeah, because it has affected other areas.
Work does. We spend so much of our lives, 60-65% of our lives are spent in work. So if we're not happy there, or even if sometimes we think we're happy there, but actually our body's trying to tell us that something's wrong, which is our mind and body are so much more integrated than what we think.
Right.
So it might be that your body's trying to tell you by these, because symptoms of dizziness and feeling faint, it all sits in with anxiety.
Right, and that is how I feel. Yes.
Do you have sometimes like butterflies in your stomach, a bit nauseous?
Yeah.
It's all anxiety.
Okay.
And if that is being heightened in work, then that is the thing that needs to change.
Yeah, because I do talk to, obviously, Gemma, my therapist, about that. Well, more or less about how I feel, and not so much about work.
Yeah. But work is my bag, so what you can try and do is wake up and in any time, or if you have thoughts about work before you go to sleep, anything, write them down, and then what you can do is either call or email me in the morning to offload those thoughts, box them somewhere else and concentrate on you.
Okay.
And we'll work through those thoughts together. But I think right now is what we need to do is I'll forward you a template email to get back in touch with your employers.
Yep.
And hopefully they should come back from that and say that they're working towards a return to work interview, or it'll basically give us more of an indication where they are at, because they will want to get you back into work.
Yeah.
Don't let that scare you, because we're going to do your CV, and ultimately if you don't want to go back to that role, you don't have to. We'll do your CV to get you somewhere else. Perhaps it's still in an educational based environment, but not with so much direct contact with the children. Perhaps with older children, so you're still having that support, but you don't have a fear of falling on them. We can work it around for you, but equally when you write that letter, and you might come back and they might be really supportive, obviously forward what they say on to me,
Yeah.
and we can work through it together. They have a duty of care to put in what's called reasonable adjustments.
Oh, okay.
So reasonable adjustments work the same for physical health as what they do for mental health. If it's not too much of a cost or too unreasonable, quite literally,
Okay.
for an employer to do, they have a duty of care to do it.
Mhm.
They don't have to, but it is recommended that they should.
Right.
So if you were to go to have you ever been referred to occupational health?
No, I haven't. Not yet. Oh, actually, I did. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, how was that?
Well, they just asked me a series of questions, really.
Okay.
But then I became unwell and wasn't able to go back to work, so I don't really know where that is.
What they might do is, with their return to work, like I say, we'll email them to see where they're at. They may refer you to occupational health because your symptoms of anxiety are physical. They may be wanting to see what the likelihood is of that impacting on you in work. But your occupational health review, if they allow me in as a third party, you can email them to confirm. I can come along to support you in that.
Oh.
So you're not by yourself, because these things can be so daunting, and often dates and things like that get muddled.
That's what worried me. I haven't sort of written everything down, so that's why I did that today.
But that's brilliant that you did that, and if you can start doing things like that to help manage your day to day, you will find those symptoms of anxiety decrease.
Okay.
Anxiety is heightened when we're unaware of things, or when we're blind to it or choose to ignore it. It grows.
Right.
So if we can start to tackle it and break it down to more manageable pieces, you'll find that anxiety starts to decrease.
Okay.
So we'll see where they're at with your return to work, whether they're going to refer you to occupational health. And the only thing I want you to go away and think about today is, I'm going to do your CV and I'll meet you next week and we'll go over it, and I'll send you that email template. What I want you to do as a little task, you can write this down, is I want you to go away, and if you were to think about going back into work next week or in a month's time, what reasonable adjustments could you think of that your employer could put in place to make work more manageable for you?
Okay.
Would it be that there's an office in the nursery and you work primarily from the office? Would it be that all lifting duties are taken off from you? Would it be that you stay away from the baby room so you're not working with the really, really small children? What would the reasonable adjustments be for you? See if you can think of 2 or 3, because then hopefully when you have your return to work interview and we find out where they are with that, we can suggest things to put forward that, because you might go away and you think, actually I might, because it's not the role itself, is it? You like the role.
No, it is the fear of hurting them.
Yeah, which shows nothing but more passion in the role, really, because you don't want to upset anyone or damage or hurt anyone. So it's not the role itself, which is good. So what we want to try and do is, if you want to stay in work, think of ways that we can suggest to keep you there. Okay, so come away and think, right, just 2 or 3 things that you want maybe reasonable adjustments made. Send your CV to me and I'll work on your CV and I'll put forward that email template. I'll send you the link to the strengths profile, which will help me do your CV.
Okay.
And then we'll meet again next week to see how you're getting on. But if you have any employment worries, obviously we're a 9 to 5 service, but well-being itself is 8 till 8. If you have any harmful thoughts or any thoughts where you feel like, actually I don't want to wake up for any other reason than, it's all too much, we've got services like the Samaritans that are 24 hours.
Oh, okay.
So I'm 9 to 5, but you're never not without support.
Okay.
But employment support, you've got my number and you can always drop me a text or email and we can have conversations over the phone or whatever till our next appointment.
Yeah, sounds good, thank you.
Yeah, does that sound okay?
Yeah.
Good, lovely. So I'll go and photocopy this for you so you can take that home and you've got a copy as well. And I'll get you in touch with an appointment for next week.
Okay.
All right, lovely to meet you, Jamie.
Thank you.